So, welcome. My name is Debi Bach. I have actually gone by several names since I've been in HPNA. So I was King and I was Clancy at one point. In 2011, I was actually the National CHPN for the year, and I was Debbie Clancy then. Just so if you looked it up, it'd be like, well, who's she? That was me. I just have changed my name a lot. Anyway, I have been a hospice nurse for 25 years. I came to hospice because my mother was killed in a car accident at the age of 64, and I didn't even really know what hospice was at that time. I went to hospice for bereavement in Petaluma, California, and then all of a sudden I thought, well, why don't I just do this work? I'm a home health nurse, and so then I became a hospice nurse, and I've been certified for the last 15 years, and I am a major proponent of being certified. So this is our logo of our chapter, San Francisco Bay Area HPNA. And so I'm sure all of you, have your own logos, and it's something that you want to identify your chapter. So you look at that and you're going to know the Golden Gate Bridge. You don't even need to know that's San Francisco because Golden Gate Bridge is so well known. What I'm going to hopefully help you do is to learn how to mentor at the chapter level to sustain your chapter, because that's the thing. I mean, I am the founder of our chapter in 2009, but I also founded a chapter in Hernando Pasco, Florida in 2007, and they no longer exist because there was no one to take over for me when I left. And the competition was awful, and I've heard people even talking about the competition thing. In my county, we don't have that. So, I mean, I don't understand that competition thing because we're all doing the same work, and we should network with one another. I mean, that's how you get better at what you do, is you network and you hear about different cases that you would have never even heard about, and you learn to do different things. So I just really think that networking is a huge part of this. So my objectives today are to define what mentorship and what leadership is, and to understand what the HPNA Executive Board consists of, and then how the San Francisco Bay Area chapter fits into that model. So what is mentoring? So mentoring, I was going to say I had something I'm going to pass around, but I didn't know where it was at. So mentoring is a process for the informal transmission of knowledge, of experiences from a person who's the mentor to the mentee. Now, probably in your lives, you've probably mentored someone, a child, a neighbor, a colleague that you have mentored. You've helped them through something. I have been a mentor most of my adult life. I got into, when I came out, I was an Army nurse in Germany. When I came back from Germany in 1978, and I tried to work as an RN in San Francisco, I mean, the first day I was getting my hand slapped for doing something that I wasn't supposed to do, and it's like, well, I've been doing this for years. But in the Army, we nurses, we did a lot. So we were like nurse practitioners, but the nurse practitioner role was just kind of coming out at that point, and I didn't know anything about it. And so I left nursing and went into sales and tried to make the big bucks. So I was selling the, medical supplies. Women then called me up and said, how do you do that? I want to do that. I want to get into sales. And so I started mentoring women at that point as to how to get into sales. So from the sales background, I then got into, I became, a hospice nurse, and I started mentoring people in the hospice field. But one of the people that I mentored in 2001, I was a Rotarian in Ohio, and I was a hospice nurse there. But I had a pizza parlor as well, which is how I got into the Rotary. And I have done a lot of things. And so I got into the Rotary, and they had this program called the Strive Program, and they had seniors at the Fremont High School that were in danger of failing. And if we would mentor one of those seniors to help them to pass, that would be it's a win-win situation. So I did do that. And so I had a woman, her name was Melanie Roca. Her home life was awful. Terrible things were happening for her. And she indeed would not have passed if I hadn't mentored her. 3 days before graduation, I was still running after her history professor. Please give me one more project she can do. We want her to graduate in 3 days. And he did. And she did graduate. So in February this year, she called me and she said, Debbie, I'm finally getting my RN. Would you come and please pin my RN on me at Columbus Community College in Ohio? And I said yes. And so I came and I pinned her, and she sent me this. And I love this. So I just would love to pass this around. But it is about mentoring. So she is like one of my shining stars. And she's actually been caring for hospice patients for the last couple years as a CNA. And now she's an RN. And she maybe will follow me into the hospice nursing. So mentoring can be so rewarding. And these are some of the examples of some famous mentors. Joe Oliver mentored Louis Armstrong, and Andy Grove mentored Stephen Jobs, and Plato mentored Aristotle, who then mentored Alexander the Great. So there, this has been going on forever and ever. Mentoring has always been there. And that's what we need to do in our chapters, is we need to mentor people to be able to move up through the ranks. Now, that is peer mentoring, because we're mentoring our peers. We are all equals. So it's not like I'm mentoring somebody that's, going to be less than me. We're all going to be equals. But we as peers, because we've done these things, we need to pass that on to people that we see have that potential. If you're in one of your presentations and someone's asking a lot of questions, get their name, because obviously they are motivated people, and you want to see if you can't mentor them to get to be on your board. So leadership is looking for those kinds of qualities. So the leader is looking for people that they can lead and they can help to progress through the organization, and they get that mentoring as you're going along. So the traits of leaders are that they're available, they're approachable, they're self-motivated, they are confident. And when you see these kinds of people, it's like, the light bulb needs to go on, and you say, okay, maybe if I get her to be a committee member, then she'll see what it's like to work on the steering committee, and maybe she would go up into one of the elected offices and maybe on to president. And so that's what we all need to do. You all are leaders. That's why you're here. I mean, you wouldn't be at this conference if you weren't a leader. And so you need to find people to fill your shoes as you want to move through being off the board and being one of the people that just comes and takes advantage of all the classes that are being offered. So HPNA has, the designated president, vice president, or president-elect, treasurer, secretary, and past president. In 2011, we voted to have the past president be a voting member on our executive board, because we felt 4 people, you can't break a deadlock with 4 people. And so if we had the past president who knew the history and could still vote, then you would not usually have a tie vote. So I put in this packet the different roles, is what the president does, what the vice president does, what the treasurer does, and so we're not going to skip over those things. So I'm just going to tell you how we did it at our chapter. Our chapter has been very successful, and it is not only due to me. I want you to know that I have had so many people step up, so many people that I could see had an interest that was more than just attending the meeting, getting the CE, and rushing home. And so our chapter has just been very, very instrumental in growth. And I'll share the statistics later on as to what that is. But in 2009 is when we started. I sent out an email, which you can get all the list of people who belong to HPNA from National. They will send you that email list, and you can start from there. And then I emailed every hospice that was in the area, so we called around and we got everybody's email addresses in the 50-plus hospices in our territory, and we had 22 people at our first meeting. Half of those people are still active members of our chapter. So in 2010, we became a chapter. We only did 6 months of provisional group. We had our 15 national members, and we became a chapter, an official chapter in 2010. We started collecting dues of $20, and in 2011, we submitted for an HPNF grant, and we did our first clinical review in 2012. The clinical review has been our moneymaker, because we have four meetings a year, as we are supposed to have 4 meetings a year. We don't charge for the meetings except for the clinical review. And I do have later on, I've got a slide that shows about the income for the clinical review. But the clinical review has been what has propelled us to having so many people in the San Francisco Bay Area that have come to our chapter meetings. So we started to use Dropbox for all of our pieces of paper. And so if you haven't used Dropbox, it's free. Everybody can access it. And we started using Dropbox back in 2011. So we've got all of our records that go clear back to that, and we can communicate to one another, and somebody can make a flyer, and I can pull it out of there. So, I mean, it's really been wonderful to use Dropbox. 2012, we had our first clinical review, and we were fortunate enough where I work at Kaiser Martinez in the East Bay. They have a huge room that holds 73 people. They give it to me free every year to hold a clinical review. The caveat was that I had to allow Kaiser people to come for the member price rather than the non-member price. That was no skin off our nose. You know, it's fine. So we charged $95 for the clinical review for members and $130 for the non-members for an 8.5 CEs clinical review. We'll talk about that in a little bit. It's a preparation to take the certification test. Yes. Then in 2013, Brad Macy was our chapter president, and if you saw my poster out there, Brad started the Macy catheter, the rectal catheter for giving medications when you can't swallow, which is FDA approved. And so that is Brad Macy, who used to be our president here. But he also brought the website. So when we got the Nursing Network website, our life changed. I mean, it made things so much easier because we had been trying to do everything via a computer, and it was difficult trying to keep track of people. The website does it now for you, and it's free. So if you don't have a Nursing Network website, you need to get one, okay? So Brad, that year he was the CHPN of the year in 2013, and I was the CHPN of the year in 2011, which was great honors, great honors. So in 2014, we realized how much money we had in the Treasury. So we started then sending $1,000 to HPNF every year for their education offerings that they offer to everyone in HPNA. And we continue to send $1,000 every year, as well as our $150 to be a chapter. We started a newsletter. We have presented for the last 3 years. Somebody from our chapter has presented at Leadership. So last year, our chapter president was Jeanette Parasso, and when she and I have worked for several years together at a couple different hospices, and she did the Year of Fun. And so last year, we just had a lot of fun. We all had these little sticks that we were waving in the air at our clinical review just to keep people awake. You know, they had these lights and things. But we had a blast last year. This year, our president is it's our first palliative nurse that's been president, and this is the year of connection. And so we have been connecting with other organizations in our area. And next year, our president is someone who came up from being the membership chairman to treasurer to now she's the president for next year. She couldn't come this weekend because she works for a small agency, and they had just lost one of their good nurses to us in Kaiser because Kaiser pays the best in California, and so she couldn't come because she had to work. She just couldn't come to this meeting. So what we did is we changed the steering committee to have members at large. We have an area that's 300 miles by 100 miles. That's a lot of territory, and people trying to drive to meetings. we found that Saturdays are our best days for meetings. We tried everything. We tried the weekend meetings, the weekday meetings, the morning meetings. Saturdays are our meetings. So we have 4 meetings a year. One of them's a clinical review, which costs the money. The other 3 are free. So we have 2 meetings, and then the third meeting is an education day. And so we do, like this year, it's going to be the day of caring for you. And it will be open. We have a room that's going to hold 120 people. And so we're hoping that people from all specialties will come to it, because it's really, we're talking about burnout and compassion fatigue and caring for ourselves. So anybody could come to those meetings. And it will be free if you've paid the $25 dues to come to our chapter. We also changed, in the standing rules, we changed that the past president could be a voting member. And this year we also added that one of the founding members, which would be me or one of the other 11 that have been with us from the beginning, could also be on the executive board without holding another office. So this year I'm holding treasurer. Not that I wanted to be the treasurer, but I wanted to stay on the board. And so when we were at the board meeting, they said, well, why don't we have somebody from the founding, who's one of the founding members, which I think is a great idea, because then you're mentoring the whole way from, how it started to where it's going. And I have probably 7 more years I'm going to work in hospice. So, this is like my 3rd child. The chapter is my 3rd child. I will probably be very active on the board until the end. So we developed these members at large because our area is so big. So we have the North Bay, the East Bay, the South Bay, the Peninsula area, and San Francisco. And we have people who are called the members at large. And what they do is we move our meetings around. We do not have them in the same place. So one meeting's here, one meeting's here, one meeting's here, one meeting's here. And those members at large help to find free venues, because free is good. Free is good to have venues. We don't have the problem with the competition. So we have, we've gone to VITAS or we've gone to Pathways, and nobody said, oh, I can't go there because they're VITAS. We don't have that problem in our area, thankfully. Although I was talking to several people, there are problems with the competition, and you can't go to that hospice because your administrator doesn't want you going to that hospice or whatever. So we have these members at large that are also part of our steering committee. We developed a mission statement our very first year. And so our mission statement is that it's to further excellence and collaboration in hospice and palliative care across the continuum through education and networking at the local level. And that's what we follow. That's what we are doing. We constantly are surveying our 885 people who follow us. What do you want us to do our meetings on? So that we're meeting their needs, not our needs, but their needs. So this is our membership chart. So when we started, we had our 15 plus our first year, and then our second year we had a little bit more. Our third year a little bit more, and then in our 4th year we decided we were going to add the affiliate category. So because to be a full member, you must belong to national and you must belong to the local chapter. Well, we had people who can't belong to national. I mean, a social worker can't belong to national, a chaplain can't belong to national, a doctor can't belong to national. So we made the affiliate member, they pay the same dues, they get the same benefits, except they cannot be on the executive board because they don't belong to national, and they can't vote in the election. I haven't had anybody complain about that, and I've had people who have been affiliate members become full members, because maybe they were going to get their certification, and it's cheaper if you become a national member to get your certification. And we are always promoting certification. We really believe in that. But then we have the purple group, who are followers. So in total, we have 885 people. When I send an email out about something, it's going to 885 people. And so they can say, that looks good. Maybe I'll join for that meeting. Our next meeting next Saturday is totally sold out, and it's on end-of-life option because we do have it in California for a year now, and so we're doing an update. We did it last year when it just came out, and now we're doing an update on what are the statistics of, how has it worked, and we have the same speaker he was dynamite last year. We're having it at Stanford. But we're sold out, and I have people begging me to get in. I am never going to do this program again. This is the last time we're going to do it. So I said to the board, okay, so can we just have the waiting list people bring their own folding chairs? They said yes. So we're going to have a packed room. And that meeting's free. You know, as long as you're a member, it's free. None of us are that savvy yet, that tech savvy. Hopefully somebody will get on our board at some point that we can do webinar and things, but we're not that tech savvy. Well, they're just lending us the room. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, you know, we may have to look into that, you know, as we get even bigger. But we have 120 active members right now. We have 125 affiliate members, and then we have 600 followers. So we have a large group of people that we pull from. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, they're just following the website, correct. If they're not a member, it depends on how many CEs there are. So if it's like we charge $10 a CE, so like this one next Saturday will be 3.5 CEs. So a non-member would have to pay $35. Or they can just join the chapter and be an affiliate member for $25. I think joining the chapter as an affiliate member might be a little bit more cost effective, but you know, some people still pay the non-member fee. Whatever they want to do with their money, we'll take it. So we have about 20,000 in the bank right now. And growing. I mean, we will help people do whatever they want. We are now going to give everyone who takes the clinical review and passes, we are buying the pins, the CHPN pins, and we're giving it to them. So that is new this year, that they will get a CHPN pin if they took the clinical review from me and they passed the test. And they, you know, prove that they did that. Yes, they are. Oh, yeah, the clinical, certification, the CHPN test. You have to sit for the exam. Yeah, so, and it's held 4 times a year. No, they're still doing. The HPNA is not supporting the clinical review slides any longer. We'll get to that later. Okay, so we do education days every year. 6.5 CEs. We have had great, I mean, with the day of cannabis was fabulous, and that was before it was legal in California. Now it is legal for recreation as well as medical. But we have had fabulous speakers, and, you know, people, well, you got to redo that meeting, you know, but we're not going to do another one on cannabis. We've done 3 on cannabis, and we're done with cannabis. We'll go on to something else. So this is our moneymaker right here. The clinical review. So up until this year, okay, because this year is when things changed, and I have, 5 minutes? Okay, so if you see $30, it costs us maybe to have sometimes we get our food donated as well. And if we charge $95, it's $65 going into the bank. Now that is big money, you know, when you start adding up the money, which is why we've got so much money in the bank, is we have 73 people every year we teach the clinical review to. So this year now, when I went to teach the clinical review and I went to get the slides and they weren't there, I was a bit upset. So I had the slides from last year, and I used last year's slides. I have since done my own slides because I am a CE provider. I provide the CEs for our chapter. And so I am now going to rename the clinical review. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, but it's going to be 16.5 credits. And so there will be 8.5 hours that people have to do on their own, because I'm going to send them the slides, and I'm going to send them a test to take. And then they'll have 8 hours of listening to me presenting case scenarios. So instead of me doing those slides that were boring, I am going to do all case scenarios. So, God, I've got so many great patients to pick from, because Kaiser, almost all my patients are younger than I am, because we have, we're a health plan. And so most of my patients are not Medicare age. and lots of things I'd never even seen in my life. So anyway, the clinical review is huge. I just believe that is what makes a good chapter. I am available to speak at any other chapters. I would gladly share my slides with you. And I can also provide you CEs if you would like, because I am a CE provider from the Board of Registered Nurses in California. So one of the things that our chapter president last year did, put this together. This is our system manual, so that whenever the new treasurer comes in, I can hand this to her, and she can just take up and do what I'm doing this year, because we have everything written here that's also in Dropbox. So it was a way of getting all of us to write down what it is we were doing so that the next people could continue to do that. And I'm happy to share any of our formats, any of our documents. If you want something from me, please let me know. I'm happy to do that. I have mentored several chapters. The Sacramento chapter came from my chapter. The Santa Cruz chapter did come from my chapter, and they just went defunct this weekend, which is very upsetting to me. I wish they would have contacted me, but they didn't. So here's why we have been successful. We have had consistency in our executive board. We have affiliate members that have allowed us to grow. We find free venues to hold our meetings. We have the annual clinical review to prepare for the CHPN test, and we promote belonging to national and to be certified. We have a CE provider in the house, which is me. We use Nursing Network website. We use PayPal and Dropbox, and we follow our mission statement. And that is why we've gotten to where we're at, and I don't foresee that we're going to be losing. I just think that we'll just continue on being a great chapter. So here's my information. If you want to contact me, please do. I only work part-time at Kaiser because I am the epitome of self-care. I travel all the time. So I only work a few days a month.
So if you want to request like your clinical summary, clinical review, what email should we send it to?
You can either send it to this one or the treasurer one. I have 7 email addresses. So this is my personal company. It's called Carrot Life's End. I have a website, and that's where my CE provider is through that little company of mine. Oh, it was so hard. To be a CE provider, it took me 8 months. That took a long time. And I've been an approved educator for for HPNA, but the approved educator program is changing here, I think, and I am one of the 6 national certification review educators, but I've never presented yet, and I haven't seen the slides. So I've just basically been doing what I've been doing for the last 8 years, is using the HPNA provided slides, but now I've taken the HPNA logo off of them and just put them on, regular paper, and to try to have this now 16.5-hour CE offering. So, questions? Thank you. I mean, I'd be happy to help anyone. I mean, I truly believe in the chapter system. I believe that every single hospice should belong to HPNA. I mean, I was so dismayed when I talked to my bosses on Wednesday. I was turning my computer in, and I said, "Do you belong to a national HPNA?" No. What? I mean, HPNA is the guru. I mean, who are you looking to for leadership if you're not belonging to HPNA? So I'm a big believer. Okay? Thank you very much.